the Special Ed Alternative Ed and Early Childhood Subcommittee, October 14th, 2025. Please call the roll.
Mr. Aguirre?
Here.
Mr. Corey?
Here.
Ms. Pereira? Here.
Can we stand for a salute to the flag, please? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made whether perceived or unperceived by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. Citizen input time, and no one's in person. We have 3 people signed up by email.
Yes.
Can you read those? First up, Taylor Perry, 105 Aberdeen Street. Subject matter, misconduct.
Dear members of the school committee and administration, my name is Taylor Perry and I am writing to request your immediate attention to several serious matters involving alleged misconduct within the Fall River School Department. Over the past months, as I've watched numerous school committee meetings, I have repeatedly witnessed attempts by members to question or discuss issues involving sexual harassment complaints connected to Carla Cruz. Each time these concerns appear to be redirected, dismissed, or covered up instead of being transparently or properly addressed. This pattern deeply concerns me as it gives the public the impression that accountability and policy are being ignored. Committee members have repeatedly asked that proper procedures be followed and simple and reasonable expectations, but it remains unclear whether those procedures ever work. Recently, a former student reached out to me personally, courageously sharing disturbing details related to the superintendent. I have already submitted an email about this, and the student has also provided a written statement describing her experience. That statement must be formally reviewed and investigated in full compliance with the Fall River Public School policy and state law. In closing, this is not a rumor, this is reality. When multiple voices, students, parents, and former staff all describe the same patterns of abuse and inaction, this is not coincidence, that is culture. Our children's safety, dignity, and trust have been violated far too long under a veil in bureaucracy and silence. The community is watching, parents are speaking, and we will not stop until accountability is delivered. Sincerely, Taylor Perry.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
when Ms. Perry submitted her input, she also tagged myself, so I was able to read the input beforehand. That input does appear to be different.
Correct, I spoke with Attorney Assad, and he requested that some of it be redacted.
We'll hold that until after. So, as the chair of the subcommittee, I do not know any of that information. So, it's not the first time I should be hearing about it as the chair of this committee that we've changed what somebody submitted. It might be totally legitimate, might be for a good reason, but the chair of the committee is sitting here and doesn't know that information, so we'll deal with that after. Next up, Colin Dyers, 560 Ray Street, titled Misconduct, and I'm just going to tape just so if it goes longer. Not tape,
Sure.
time, just so you know.
Good afternoon. I am submitting this public written input because myself and another member of the committee have both brought concerning information relative to inappropriate relationships that may have alleged to have taken place in the district. The administration hasn't taken this issue seriously, has not looked into the matter, nor has responded to said members if any of these claims have merit to them or not. The issue that I have brought to the administration's attention was previously brought to the administration's attention by the vice chair, and it was not appropriately investigated then either. I encourage the administration to implement a zero-tolerance policy relative to inappropriate misconduct in the workplace. I am once again calling on the superintendent to have our letters seriously and take our letters seriously and investigate them. Why is the administration allowing this to happen? Best regards, Colin.
Thank you. Third up, Jeffrey Goodrow, 229 Palmer Street, allegations.
Good afternoon. We, one citizen of Fall River, I am disgusted with the corruption and sexual misconduct happening in the Fall River Public Schools. The administration has allowed Durfee High School to become Espin's Island, and the allegations that have been made have shaken me to my core. Are we allowing drugs and sex to be the common practice for the security that is supposed to protect the students? Tracy Curley, why have you allowed this to happen? Taxpayers, money will now go towards more legal expenses because we cannot hire the right people. Would you feel safe placing your children in this district? I believe Kevin and Colin have made letters asking for an investigation into other inappropriate misconduct. Tracy Curley, have you investigated their letters? How many more complaints of misconduct, sexual or otherwise, have crossed your desk since you took leadership? How many of those complaints have been fully investigated and how many were quietly dismissed? Tracy Curley, do you believe parents should trust your administration when these allegations continue to surface? Have you ensured victims given protection rather than retaliation? Do you believe silence protects the students or protects the institution? Enough is enough. It needs to be full transparency now, and you can't keep hiding from these issues.
Thank you. Moving on. To item number 3.01, discussion People Incorporated contract. Madam Superintendent.
So, as you know, we brought forth, we engaged in a contract earlier this year, I think over the course of 5 weeks, as we were exploring pathways to continue our partnership with People Incorporated, and we had staff at the school who were working in the school for the last 5 weeks and collaborating with staff there around potentially a new contract that we would continue throughout the year. So what was supplied here for part of the discussion, and you may or may not have had an opportunity to take a look at, it was really an overview of the program that had been in place last year, with the data in terms of the number of students participating in various activities.
Can I just interrupt for 1 second?
Yep.
Just on the first part of that about the mini contract.
Yeah.
So on the sheet it talks about personnel, well you mentioned people were present. Who was actually those people?
Which piece are you referring to?
You just mentioned that there was staff there for 40 hours a week that was at the school. They didn't give us the name, so I'm just trying
Maybe
to,
Larrabee and Emily Martins.
and which one is which? So I have
Top line.
program management personnel dash director,
Yep,
$6,500.
That's me.
Mimi, okay.
Yes.
And who's the other one is?
Emily. Is the next
That's the
line
person
down.
who did whose name's on this thing?
This is the front of the budget that was shared with them.
There was only 2 staff, both 40 hours a week for the last.
Yep, no, I just was trying to clarify, and I asked that question last week and I got no answer, so, go ahead.
No, tell me what the question is?
Who were the individuals on this sheet?
And you
The
had
budget?
already asked that question?
Yeah, because I thought that it was probably Miss Larrabee, but no one confirmed, so they just did.
Oh, okay, I honestly don't
But
know.
the name Emily, I think, is in here somewhere.
Is in here?
Yeah, I
his name?
think so.
Okay.
So, I digress.
Yeah, last page. Yeah, she was the last page.
And is she one of the, she here?
No.
You're here on their behalf?
Yeah, I'm president and CEO, and Kelly's the vice president of Children's who oversees them directly. So the people who are in that building are not here right now.
Got it, thank you.
And so you're welcome to join. I was just gonna kind of introduce what we were gonna talk about. And so I know that you've looked through the information because it's here. I mean, I think the bottom line is we brought it here for discussion so that we could talk about kind of what has been done. The data coming out of last year, because it's something that we have, looked to do with all of our partners, to be able to report out the outcomes of partnerships. Some of that is meant to provide a rationale for moving forward when we adapt plans or we adopt new ones with the particular partners. This is shared here for your information. despite the fact that we are not continuing the People Inc. contract going into this school year. So I still thought it would be a good idea to have the partners here to talk a little bit about what we've done and why we're not moving forward, but that's the purpose of the discussion today.
So it's twofold. One is the document is based on what happened in the past with the
Yep.
Correct.
piece. Now this, the budget of what that short mini contract was, is that, I didn't really look at this, I just got it now, so I know it was sent, but I didn't have a chance to look
Yeah,
at the
sure.
email. Is in this document, anything related to what the findings are in the 17.9 that we spent? Do you
No.
understand?
In this, no, this is outcomes from last year.
Okay.
Yep.
And then we're gonna have the conversation about what we got for the 17.9.
Sure, well, I think we can lead into that. As we look at the data that is very limited coming out of last school year, as we have begun to build alternative pathways through RPA between the virtual school, which only launched mid-year last year, so getting the team connected with the virtual school kids was a vision for that work, as well as late September, we launched the home tutoring program over at RPA. That has been going very well. However, not having students physically in person, really working with a very challenged group of students, it was a larger task than anticipated to be able to connect the dots for all of those kids as well. As we've looked at Stone, we had tough conversations around Stone, because really as we're thinking about all of these virtual and alternative pathways, could People Inc. serve a role in that work? And as we dug into the data over the last 5 weeks, recognizing the depth of the virtual pathway over at RPA, the limited numbers of kids who are coming into the building every day, in addition to just the 24% reduction in total enrollment at RPA. We've been at a standstill with being able to have a fluid transition opportunity through RPA. And so coming out of this, what we realized was stretching the program across 2 different sites, 4 different programs, as well as really working with the superintendent around all of the findings with the DOJ investigation and some of those, limitations that it's put on us. We've come to a place to say it's too far stretched, in addition to looking at the enrollment, recognizing what we already know has come up in conversation around the number of staffing and positions that RPA has. We definitely feel at this point that we need to pivot and look to do things a little differently, as well as the program of People Inc. has shifted over the years. If we go back just even a year, there was a different program model that was in place. We had the youth program where they were getting direct job service through People Inc. That has faded because a grant dissipated in the last 12 months. In addition to that, some of the job opportunities that we thought kids would be viable for and we had positioned kids to be viable for, they really were not ready for those job opportunities out the gate, both socially and emotionally, as well as just the stability in their lives to hold down those jobs. And so we really had to make some pivots to say this isn't the right time, although we've had a long-standing partnership with People Inc. It has looked different over the course of the years. I personally can only speak to the last couple.
But I think some of what you're referring to is the next RPA update. So I would like to give an opportunity to People Inc. if they want to go over any of these slides, if you want to say anything, you want to join us at the table, anything like that. I don't want to minimize it to not have it, but yeah.
No, I appreciate that, and I just, we've had a lot of conversations, our team has been in it was a 5-week stint, we had our 2 staff in there for the last 5 weeks to kind of try to get, boots on the ground running, and so to both, Dr. B and Superintendent's points, this isn't the year with the decrease in numbers of the students. We don't want to give up, we want our budget to reflect a significant direct impact, and I think we felt that was just with numbers changing, that it wasn't, we wanted to be fair and just and efficient and effective. And so with that said, we've been doing this for about a decade. It's varied over the years. Mm-hmm. We've gone with the flow of this is what People Incorporated does. We go with the flow of what our community needs, but we're so grateful to have the collaboration. We've had a wonderful working relationship with you all, and I just want to thank folks. I want folks to realize it was a mutual, it was just kind of a mutual business decision that made the most sense based on the virtual students. But just a thank you, and again, I mentioned to these women earlier, as the months go by, as the next school year goes by, or 2 school years from now, we'll always sit down to have a discussion how people incorporated can help. It's what we do, so the door is always open.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions on this particular piece of paper? Mr. Corey?
Okay. So does that mean that Mimi and Emily won't be in the school any longer?
Correct, so the contract technically this is the 5th week of it all. So we're basically gonna instruct them that we'll start to phase out of the building over the next day or 2.
Okay.
Ms. Perry, you have anything? No. Mr. Dice?
Thank you. Just want to say thank you again for the work and the years of collaboration with the Fall River Public Schools. Just one question for the administration that was on the contract. Were there times like maybe school supplies, was that have to have been given to help this program, like outside of the contract at all? Like simple school supplies like pencils, paper, or anything of that?
I don't know, I would say. I don't know what has happened on a daily
Ours,
basis.
like we have all our own equipment, all our own, like we would have our own
Okay.
deliveries.
Bring in your own pencils.
Yeah, I'm
Wanna
not
make
gonna
sure
say,
you
I'm
bring your own
not gonna say
pencils.
maybe a pencil
Well,
was
'cause we're gonna send you a bill.
but it
Well,
was,
that's,
you know.
I don't wanna say
Yeah.
absolutely not,
Yeah,
because
pen could have been
is it
borrowed,
possible
but
that
yeah,
at some
yeah.
point someone's
But we
gonna have a
definitely
box of
have our
pens?
own ordering
Potentially.
supply.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I yield.
Just hold on a second, Mr. Corey. So what, the document that we had, it actually indicates phone supplies insurance. I think this was more of any contract that they get, they X amount percentages, but it's deceiving. So to Mr. Dice's point, it does say on here, total phone supplies and insurance. It talks about equipment, leasing, depreciation, like all those languages are not what we typically get. Hire a consultant, 17 grand, we don't see the breakdown. So what he is referring to is the budget, that's all. Mr. Corey?
And so in regard to our collaboration with People Incorporated, you guys are still working with us on the early childhood stuff, right? CPPI grant and stuff. So no, that's always very, very welcome because we're expanding that whole outlook too. We're still getting our feet wet in early childhood too, so appreciate your help
Good,
along those
Up
lines.
by Weaver Street too, when you can.
Yeah, Friday morning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good job.
I did want to just mention, because I think there was a question about the last 5 weeks, so I was just looking for this data that had been provided. So the 45 students did complete the Youth Voice Survey, and there were 4 classroom visits, so the staff pushed into 4 groups of students around services. 11 students in person and 1 did fill out employment applications with the support of the CEC. 7 students completed their resume, 8 participated in a full employment search, and there were 16 students total that actually had been referred. So that was the business over the last 5 weeks as they got up and running.
So those numbers, out of how many?
So
You
we have
say 45.
there are 150 students
Okay, roughly.
enrolled right now,
Okay.
roughly at RPA, with about 50 of them virtual. So we had, so there were 2 referrals of out of the 16 referrals, 2 were virtual, 14 were from in-person students and things like that. So
Okay.
I can share this with the committee, but I think as was already mentioned, I think with 50 students not being live and participating in that way, it just kind of decreased access the way the program is designed. So I think that
Right,
would
that
sure.
was, yeah.
Can I ask you, what was that first, you said that they did a survey or something? Or
The Youth
not
Voice
familiar.
Survey?
What is that? What does that look like?
It was just an interest survey that our goal was to have every single student participate in it. So actually the numbers were higher than last week. And it was, I don't know how many questions. Do you remember, Kelly, what specifically was on it? It was like what they would like to get out of CEC, what would be most beneficial to them as a RPA student.
As well as extending after-school hours, what they would stick around for after school hours, really looking at recreational programs as well as academic intervention programs, social experiences for kids after school. It really was a takeoff to the Youth Voices survey that we attempted to launch back in the summer, as we really look to think about how the schools can be used as community hubs across the city, and specifically for RPA students, what would essentially keep them off the streets during the winter months, where would they want to go and what would they want to engage in as we look to use funds to build some of this programming out.
So it's not an inventory career?
No.
Something
Not
that
in
has
our
to be created.
inventory, no.
So basically like a Google Doc or something that they fill out of?
Yeah,
hand?
yeah.
Yeah.
So what was those numbers again, just so you?
There were 45 students who participated, so about a third of the students so far had participated in the survey.
Thank you, Mr. Corey.
So Dr. Bronhard, according to your statement just now, you say to open up the school a little bit for recreational purposes. Back in the day, it used to be the Bank Street Armory. Because it was center city, it was accessible to the kids from the south end, to the north end and the east end. Is there any way that gym could be opened up at all?
You know, I think that's one of the things that we're trying to do right now is work with the city. We're actively engaging in the Shannon discussions across the city. And so leveraging some of those funding opportunities. Right now, we do not have funding opportunities to immediately just open up every school. So it's really, you know, taking a look at what the kids want to do and then backwards programming designed from there. And so our intent, really piloting over at RPA, was to work with those students, identify their interests, likes, and what they would, you know, hang out and get engaged with after hours, so we could start small, because we do have Shannon funds that support the RPA community, whereas we don't have those funds across every school in the district. So the short answer is yes, that's what we're looking to do, but we want to make sure that we don't just open it and roll out a ball, but we open it for the things that kids are going to want to show up for.
All right, so you're setting up your vision.
Right.
But there is a vision to potentially open up that school for after hours, for recreational and home, maybe craft purposes, maybe homework help, maybe that kind of thing. I yield.
Ms. Burr.
Is that, we're still talking about the gym that needs tons of work? That I've been asking why we haven't, that one? Yeah, that's not, I'm just saying. That painting, we still have, that should come up in another committee, I'm not gonna bring it up here, but that's something that I'm sure has stopped because we haven't mentioned it. I'll tell you about it another time because you guys will still be here.
Yeah.
But yeah, that building, whether we're bringing kids in there or not, that's a historic building, it's a beautiful building, and we have children in a building where they can't access, like, one of the biggest rooms where they can kind of get together. It's ridiculous. If it was any other school,
Talking about the auditorium?
yeah.
Yeah, but it's.
I'm just saying, then we need to move them out of that school. I agree with you, we need after hours, but I think the big picture look is that those kids, if that school isn't gonna open up and be functional, just like any of our other beautiful schools, then we need to take those beautiful children and move them to a school that's just as beautiful for them. That's my opinion. So I'd like to see after hours at the RPA, but they have so much work to do in that building over there, or come up with an idea of where those kids should go.
Yeah.
Because it's unfair,
We'll
in
hit
my
about
opinion.
that, we'll hit on that in the
And the
RPA
next thing,
presentation.
I'm getting at something.
So People Inc., we good? Everybody have anything else to say? We want to thank you for your collaboration
you so
and we look
much.
forward to working with you
Thank
sometime in
you.
the
Have a
future.
good night.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So next up is the update on the RPA. Madam Superintendent, Assistant Superintendent, whoever's going to present. We did get this, just so you know.
Hi. Sorry, I'm keeping I'm freezing today.
It's always freezing in here.
Okay, so is somebody presenting?
Yep. Is that me?
Yep.
Okay.
Stacy?
I just want to quickly, I know you know, everybody knows Miss Crumley, but I brought Miss Crumley with me, and also our new VP, Jeff Goss, is the new middle school VP.
Nice to meet you. How are you?
Nice to meet you.
And Mr. Soares wishes he could have been here, but I think he was doing kid duty. All right, I will start. Have you seen this all before?
Yes.
You did,
this was-
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first couple of pages you'll see are pretty self-explanatory, and it just goes over the enrollment. And like we said, we are down, it looks significantly, at RPA. Our biggest right now, it looks to be the 8th, 9th graders, 10th graders as well. The 25 for the middle school, it looks low on paper, but they are 25, as Mr. Goss has seen, very, very active, enthusiastic, entertaining middle schoolers. So the visual of the next page, it just shows the decline from 22 to 26. Please stop me if you have any questions on this. The student enrollment for the breakdown, you will see again, we are hovering about 37% for special ed, which I have been in contact with, and speaking quite a bit with Lucy Charette, who's been a great resource for me. So that's something that I think we need to be aware of. Our multi-language learners, we have a new multi-language teacher who has also been very good about coming in and asking for help with that. Miss Mosier, I can't say enough about her, I love her. But there's some data for that on there. Attendance is a big push, and it's something that we are tracking every single day, and I will be honest, it's something that we need to really tighten up at RPA. We're looking at the scanner and trying to get that up and moving. Ms. Crumley and I had a long conversation today about it, about that's going to be our most accurate, is the, it's ready to go. We have the ID cards ready. We just need to get some training on the new scanning process.
Can I just ask a question on that?
Yes.
Can you explain what you mean by the scanner?
So,
Scanned.
it's
Scanning into school, so we've now adopted
know the kids
at the
there.
high school and the 3 middle schools, when kids come in the door, they're essentially signing into school, so they need their IDs for a number of different things across school. So as kids come in, they scan in present in lieu of going to homeroom and having the teacher mark them present. Kids are scanning in present at the door. So when they come in, they scan in present, they put their phones in their pouches, no, their ID.
Instead of like doing it like
School
in
ID.
your homeroom.
No, I get it. I was missing the piece of, the attendance is 65 kids a day. So I'm having a hard time just dealing with the fact of how much staff we have, and that whatever you mentioned, and I might have missed over it, when you said we're having a hard time, we should have accurate information for
And I
65
agree
kids.
with
So what is the, I'm just trying to figure out, what does the actual scanning have to do with that piece?
because
Like, how is that gonna help?
as students come in at RPA, it's a staggered, they're not all there, right, like a Durfee. They're not, as much as I would love them to be, the reality is they're coming in at staggered times. And sometimes with security there, I think we need something that is an absolute, they scan in and it's a very designated process as they're coming through. It's not where I want it to be. It's gotten better, every week it's gotten better because we're tracking it, but it's
But
not.
it's not like a detriment. I guess I was feeling like you were thinking that the scanner is a detriment to the attendance. There's much
Oh, yeah.
different issues for that.
Yes.
But they still gotta get metal detected in too. Like,
Yeah.
there's a
So actually,
process
how
for-
they're working at it in Durfee, and correct me if I'm wrong here, we wanna actually do it reverse. We want to have the IDs on us, and as the kids come in, they scan, they get their ID as they come through, we take the phone. And the only way they get out is they hand their ID back to get their phone back. Does that make sense?
That's smart.
Because you don't use the pouch.
Correct.
We're not
Because
using
we
a
take cell
pouch.
phones, right.
Yeah,
But we're
so-
waiting for somebody to train us on the scanner, so,
I understand.
Okay.
I apologize. Go
no,
ahead.
that's okay.
Nobody's leaving with that badge without their phone, I'll tell you.
Well, that's the piece of it.
Absolutely,
That's the
that,
way
and
you-
I
nobody,
mean, I'd get to my car halfway home, but I'd still remember.
exactly, so we're gonna do it the opposite
smart.
way. So again, we're using strategies, we are doing incentives, and the kids are buying into it. Another thing that we just upped, and I don't think it's on here, is we're doing breakfast after the bell, which wasn't happening. So, starting at 8:30, we have our cafeteria ladies upstairs. They're super excited because they have quadrupled their numbers. And as kids come in the morning and head to advisory, they're getting a breakfast and heading to their, which I love to see that kids are getting fed. So, and I feel like that has actually helped our attendance in getting kids into that first period advisory. So, feel free to speak up here in the back, okay?
Can I ask you a question on the attendance update?
Yes.
First one is use of attendance car. I'd ask for data on that. Like, is it, how many days is it being used? Is it being used? Is it, like, what is the update on?
I would say
that,
it's at least 2 to 3 times a week. I can confidently say that. I don't think it's being used daily. It was used today. We do have a log now that they've initiated starting last week that wasn't in place. And you have any more of that, Lori? I know. The attendance car?
I'm not sure. I've used it with Maria Kennedy.
Right.
to-
Would you say, I would say a couple times a week at least.
At least.
Yeah.
And what is it being used to the degree that it can really make a difference? Like, so student calls up, parent calls up, we're making our calls, we call up and say, little Johnny doesn't want to get out of bed, he's got no ride, whatever. We say, we'll see you in 15 minutes, get in the car, go pick him up and come back in. Like, is it?
That's exactly how it's being done. Maria Kennedy is on it.
Good, so what I would ask is that we get some data on that, or at
Okay.
least paragraphs, or, one pager, because we, as a committee, said we want these attendance cars. across the whole district, they're not being utilized, in my opinion, enough when we got terrible attendance, but
Well, hang
the
on,
attendance is getting better.
yeah, way better,
But ultimately,
way better.
the vehicles are not necessarily being utilized as much as this member would like. So
Okay.
what I'm suggesting is that if you are doing it, and I believe Maria Kennedy is on it, and I'm not suggesting that she's not, or you guys aren't, just that if we don't know that it is, we can say, yep, we're using it, and we were able to get 5 kids to school this week that wouldn't have come otherwise, something like
So
that.
starting so I hold the keys to the car, and an attendance car is totally new to me, but starting last week, everybody knows where the key is, it's attached to a clipboard, there's a log, and they absolutely have to fill out the log, sign in, sign out, once they turn the key back in. So, we will have that data.
Sounds good, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions about attendance?
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Corey.
No, the only thing about attendance, it's always been difficult. And I applaud any efforts, and I know Dr. B's been working her tail off on, and district-wide attendance is up, and I'm really pleased to see that. At RPA, it's a different animal, and I know you got your hands full at trying to incentivize it. I'm happy to hear that breakfast is incentivizing somewhat better attendance. I mean, it's gonna be rough, and so I applaud all those little efforts. Thank you, I yield.
Ms. Berry, you have anything on attendance?
No,
Mr. Dias?
Very quickly, just on the car, I'd like to see that data as well, because I'd like to know as one member, do you have enough seats? Do you need like a minivan instead, like, or do you
I hope I
need?
never need a minivan to get students to school. I'd like one at a time to bring in. A minivan tells me there's a lot of kids staying home.
Right,
Yeah.
and I don't know if that's the case, unfortunately. So that's why I like to see if you need extra support at, obviously at RPA. I know there's the heightened attendance issue there, and so I just think it's useful. Thank you.
I don't know, I think in some regards, and this just, I could be thinking too into it, but in some regards, transporting multiple kids then may, in case of different situations at school, may actually cause like safety issues and things for the kids. So it may be a situation where this is a population that it may be best to kind of grab and engage with just that child to get them to school. If there's any sort of on the way, then people change their minds and you don't get them in the door yet.
Just breathe, kid, just.
Mr. Corey?
So who's driving the car?
Maria Kennedy most of the time, with
Maria?
another staff member,
Yeah,
yes.
I worked with
Yes.
Maria, so I know
Yeah.
that's good.
She's fantastic.
So she's coaching the kids probably too on their way back to school, you know, probably putting some good thoughts in their heads.
Those students don't want Maria Kennedy showing up to pick them up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would love that job.
Yeah,
Yeah, so the attendance car vehicle, I think, was a good thing. Like I said, I think it should be used. It's also meant for multiple staff go, there's like policies in place, and there's coverage. So they no longer take your personal car, throw the kid in there, because you want to just do the right thing.
Right.
So this is a way for liability, it just makes a lot of sense. That's,
Absolutely.
you know, why they were created. My only question on attendance has to do with virtual, but I think we're probably gonna get to how that works later, correct?
Yes.
Will we address the virtual kids' attendance later? In the slides, or do you want to try to touch upon it now, or I don't want to,
There's
Keep
a whole
stopping you.
section about the virtual.
we'll talk about it then.
Okay.
Thank you.
So student support at RPA, you can see the breakdown. Vice principal, school counselors, SACs, SEL liaisons, behavior therapists, virtual pathway specialists, and community facilitator. And what that looks like.
Any questions on that? I have a question. So when I look at these, we do this across the whole district where we look at how many counselors are each building. School adjustment counselor, behaviorist, guidance counselor, they're all listed as one. When you look at, and when I personally look at ratios. So I don't think these ratios are accurate, obviously, if that's my belief. So we have 3 guidance counselors, 3 school adjustment counselors, 3 liaisons, and a behavior therapist. Technically speaking, you could say that's 10 individuals that are actually doing SEL type work in the school, and only 150 kids total. I'm struggling with the number, because that tells me that it's a 15-to-1 ratio, and if you take out the 50 kids virtual, it's less than a 10-to-1 ratio. I'm just being totally transparent. That number is
And
really,
I hear what you're saying.
and the top one, about 3 vice principals. I've worked in that school, I know what the kids are, so I'm not sugarcoating how difficult the job is. But the same thing, we're at 67 kids in the building, if you take the 150 or take the 50 off, you're at 67 kids in the building, with 3 administrators, 10 SEL person, and you have just regular staff, you know, so.
So you will see once we get further into this, that actually the virtual, Ms. Crumley has now been shifted to the vice principal of the virtual as well, is what she has in front of her, just because of that
Just,
fact.
on this slide, I just wanted to raise it.
Just also to note on that too, the third SEL liaison is a grant-funded position that's not funded out of the operating budget for RPA. So one of those positions will be fading away at the end of the year, that's in the grant, the gun violence grant. So, not dismissing the other components you made, I just wanted to highlight that one of those is a grant-funded position.
So
Ms. Pereira.
when we're looking at the student to staff ratios, these are virtual and in-person students?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
Oh, I see it right here, sorry. Some of them.
Mr. Corey.
Oh, no,
The
no,
community
it's just-
facilitator,
Right here.
Dr. Monette, what's the role of the community facilitator?
So I'm gonna be honest, and I know I can only use that I'm new for so long, but I'm trying to figure out exactly what everybody does, and to your point, when I start telling people the resources here, and that's what we've really been working on, is defining what exactly everybody does. So the community facilitator, I'll be honest, could actually be doing, me personally, what CEC is doing as well, making the phone calls, getting people in for internships, talking to kids, students about jobs, facilitating what it looks like to bring the community into RPA and bringing our RPA students out into the community.
So maybe a guest speaker program, that kind of thing from the local businesses, maybe trying to get these kids jobs hooked up with local businesses.
Correct.
Stuff like that. Are we talking to schools like ITT Tech or UTI Tech? Maybe schools like that might have some type of a grasp with the kids at RPA, stuff like that.
Well, I do think we have plenty of those relationships and networking connections through Durfee High School counselors.
Yeah.
And so I think a big missing piece has really been the professional development of the school counselors at RPA, so that they too can deliver a very similar product to the kids at RPA as they do at Durfee High School. Many of the resources and/or programming could either be replicated and/or RPA students join, like they are coming up to the College and Career Fair up at Durfee on the 16th. We've got some RPA students going up. We will be leveraging the attendance car from a few schools to get them there. So we are trying to leverage some of those resources to expose the RPA students to those opportunities, but I also feel that we are approaching a time based on enrollment and the demands that are put on our school counselors, different than that from our adjustment counselors, because they do 2 different types of work. But this is the work that I would envision, and I know Dr. Monette and Dr. Curley, and we talked about on Friday, as we're planning to pivot with People Inc. and move in a different direction, that this will be some of the work that lives very naturally under these 3 guidance counselors over at RPA specifically.
Okay, I yield.
Okay, next one's a staffing update. So we currently have 1 science position open, 2 math positions, and 3 special education positions. So I just want to speak about that for a few minutes. So we are looking at this week, because of the virtual pathway and the numbers there, of collapsing a few sections to see what we can do to combine, to see if we can ease that up a little bit. The 3 special ed is a tough one, as we know, and Lucy and I have come up with hopefully some ideas on that as well, because we're identifying that we have some subsets that we collapsed, but now we have to open them back up. Am I saying that correctly?
Who's
So,
Lucy?
She's my specialized supervisor for
For that
RPA.
one, thank you.
Yes.
so right now, the students that are currently in that science without a teacher are on Edgenuity, so thank goodness we have that, because they are getting instruction. The math teachers, we also have 1 that's filling in. It's not ideal, the middle school. I believe we are offering it to somebody. I think Dennis said that. And then the other one, we're hoping if we can collapse those sections, we can figure out how we can make it work, because I just don't think we're going to find a science and a math teacher. I'm being realistic. So the recent additions is Mr. Goss, yay, glad he's here, and our virtual pathway specialist. As you know, we went in front of school committee, I think my first couple weeks, and that is up and running. So that's where we're at with staffing updates.
No, that is the after-school position that we.
No, that's the position, the virtual pathway specialist is the position in school, during the school day That's,
Which was converted, I'm just trying to remember.
yeah, we reallocated that from the community.
Parent engagement
Parent engagement, yes.
specialist position got converted.
So it's basically like a lateral.
Lateral.
contract.
Yes, yes.
So the only question I have on that is like, what does your middle school look like for staffing?
So that's the one where we got hit the most, unfortunately. So we have a history teacher now, we lost the math teacher, we have a science teacher, and we have a brand new ELA teacher. So the only thing we're missing now is the math teacher, which hopefully if they take it. But originally, we were scrambling to get those positions filled.
So you have 4 middle school teachers full-time,
Yes.
and then you have,
Actually, they're
What
doing
else do you
7th
have?
through 9th grade.
so I guess I'm just trying to figure out, the numbers are so ridiculously low in the middle school? I'm trying to figure out what they do all
So
day.
there's 2 cohorts, so they're teaching 7th, 8th, and 9th. So there's 2 7th grade cohorts, 2 8th grade cohorts, and their 9th. So that would be their 5th.
Just in my head, I'm looking at the numbers. So you have 2 cohorts of 7th grade for 14 kids?
Actually, no, there's one, I apologize. There's 1 cohort for 7th grade. There's 2 for 8th grade, and they must have 2 sections of 9th.
It's like 2.
Yeah.
Well, 9th you have like,
Number,
6
the
kids,
numbers,
so you're at 13 if you have 2 sections. The other way you're at 8. I was reading this wrong. You're talking about out of the 7, you got 3 special ed and 4. Where it says all on the enrollment page is all. But
So it looks like one section,
you have no
two
kids in
sections,
7th
two
grade
sections.
other than special ed and multi-language learners, the way I'm reading this.
no, and I don't have that
All
exact
7.
numbers in front of me.
Yes,
Or either one or the other.
yeah, that's how this reads, yeah.
Wow. So, and then you said 9th grade, not middle school, so our middle school there is now 7th, 8th, and 9th?
So right now, the 9th grade, because we tried to keep 9th grade on that one floor with the 7th and 8th graders, and so because of that and the proximity, 7th and 8th picked up 9th, and then the secondary are doing 10, 11, 12. Those teachers upstairs, just based on those numbers, so.
And what was it in the past? I know you're new, so I apologize for asking, but like, so, is that different than what we've done before?
It is, I mean,
It's
the
always been an
middle
issue,
school
like 7th
teachers
and 8th,
used to be,
like,
they would do
you know-
7th and 8th, so you might have a science teacher who taught 7th grade sections, 8th grade sections, and then also taught some kind of like elective class, like in science or science related, and then the same thing. So people taught an additional course that wasn't the core content. That's how it was done last year, right?
But the 7th and 8th grade was middle school.
It was middle school.
So your certification is middle school.
Yeah, I mean, some certification is
You
6 through
carry
12.
through.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, we used to hear all the time, we're keeping the middle school separate
They
from the
kept
high
it
school.
on a separate floor.
I'm just curious how that changed and when it changed, like, cause that's news to me that we have 9th grade with 7th and 8th grade, I guess on the floor. Did we have 3 floors before? 2
No,
floors
actually,
before?
as of last week, we started out when we did it based solely on the numbers. We did 7, 8, 9 downstairs, and then 10, 11, 12. We quickly realized 9th graders cannot be mixed with 7th and 8th, 7th and 8th cannot be mixed with 9th. So as of last week, they moved upstairs, and those teachers are moving upstairs during that section and teaching the 9th graders upstairs. So that's what I mean, it was just the layout and the proximity of when I came on. I brought middle school up from the 1st floor to the 3rd floor, and then the 4th floor is now 9 through 12.
I think we had rationale to do the opposite in the past, that's why
Okay.
I really struggle with, it's like, to me, it just keeps bouncing back and forth. One time it's 7th and 8th on one floor, then it's 9th through 12th on another floor, then we need another person, like, it really gets me confused with, we don't see anything necessarily about any of this, it's just, so now we're here at the meeting, I'm asking, kind of, I think, good questions, but I don't know, but I'm going by what I knew before. What I knew before was it was 7th and 8th was separate, then I think it was 9th and 10th was separate, then I was 11th and 12th was separate. That's all this committee knew about. Now we have 9 to 12 on the one floor.
Well, because now we've added a virtual
Yeah,
pathway.
right.
So as we've looked at the dynamics of kids to keep a safe school environment, what was not safe was having 7, 8, and 9 all on the same floor. And so what we did see was having a lot of 9th graders reverting to 8th grade and middle school behaviors because that was the audience with which they were in. As we looked at this year. As we've looked, also in an effort to get those kiddos out of the lower level floor because they are now 2 floors removed from the principal, from security, and from all other support staff upstairs. So in order for us to have staff also be fluid across the floors, we had to bring them upstairs. As we looked also at 9 through 12, which is where the virtual school is, the majority of kids were either subscribing to that and or had flex schedules, so they weren't in there, especially the 12th graders, and Laura, you can speak to this, but the 12th graders have a personalized schedule to support them in achieving 80 credits to graduation and as well as those classes that they need to meet graduation. So the physical numbers of kids in the building didn't create a need for us to have everybody on second floors. By bringing it all together in 2 floors this year, it has given us an ability to be able to have staff be more fluid, staff know students, it's not so much you're part of that floor, I really don't know anything about you. And so staff are able to backfill and support. Being separated last year and the year before was a huge strain on the adults in the building, having to cover 3 floors of kids and really not forming as personal relationships with kids as what we've been able to do so far this year. And again, based on teacher schedules, going back 2 years ago, the middle school teachers and the high school teachers, they were teaching 1 up. We tried to get them just on grade level and it left too many holes in teachers' schedules, leaving teachers unscheduled and or teaching classes that kids were not interested in taking. Because it was a class I wanted to teach as a teacher as opposed to courses that kids were interested in teaching. So doing all of these components put more core classes, gave us more room for credit recovery classes, so that kids can continue to make progress in the core academics that they do need to graduate. Because electives, as you know, is a small margin of the credits that kids need to graduate from RPA specifically, being at that 80 credit threshold. So the need for those teacher-driven electives, it was not prominent the way it might have been a couple of years back before we came to the committee for that 80 credit adjustment. So there were a number of adjustments that we made with the involvement of the VPs who have lived through the renditions of the schedules in the last couple of years in preparation of responding to kids' needs differently going into this school year. So that's where some of these changes have come about over the course of the last really 12 months, if we're honest, because the last couple of years we have not found the success that we felt we needed to, and needed to make some of those location, scheduling, and course adjustments as it relates.
So I would just reverted back to the page on the staffing. So the vice principals, you have 7th and 8th has their own, 9th and 10th has their own, and 11th and 12th has their own. And then when you go to the others, it becomes 7 through 9. And the guidance counselor has been 7 through 8. And like,
We have a virtual,
am I missing it?
the vice principal, no, you are missing it. This has, I think, been adjusted since last week. But
Yes.
we have a vice principal who's overseeing all of the virtual. We have a guidance counselor who is overseeing all of the virtual. And the school counselors, the adjustment counselors, and the rest of the staff are pretty much all boots on the ground servicing 7 to 9 and 10 to 12, right?
Correct.
Okay. So that's how the 3 staff are broken up, with people owning the different lanes that are over at
so
RPA.
there's a virtual guidance counselor, there's not a virtual school counselor, or there is?
Not fully, right? There's not a full virtual school counselor.
For are you talking about SAC or guidance
SAC.
counselor? SAC, no,
No.
no. Guidance, yes.
Just, I apologize for asking these questions.
No, it's okay.
interesting to me how the dynamics work, how my vision would be a vice principal works with a SAC and a guidance counselor, whoever it is, very consistent. They know what I do, I'm gonna hold these kids accountable, they, like I think as a group. So when I voted for a lot of these things, when the budgets come out, is for that uniformity, everybody being on the same page. We're not having, she gives the kid discipline because she's in the 10th grade and I'm in the 9th, like consistency, and that's why I'm asking these questions, because I think you're trying to move in the right direction. There's rationale for why. I'm just curious with what those were, so that's the nature of the questions.
There's a lot of things that need to be tightened up and defined, and I'm.
Got it. Mr. Corey.
So, going back to the staffing update, when you said you had open math positions, for which levels again?
Middle school math and high school math currently.
Madam Superintendent, is there any opportunity to bring a teacher from a middle school or from Dorothy High School in to maybe help supplement that, like for one period, like as an itinerant, to go there and then go back to the high school to schedule it in such a way?
It's not impossible, I will say that. I think that when we build people's schedules, who are itinerants, and we build in the travel time, and we build a schedule across schools. We'd be limited in just taking a look at people whose schedules were, like, had an open space, they're willing to travel.
Yeah.
And then we build in the travel time and things like that, so it's a little bit more difficult to do that than if Dorothy was down a teacher and another teacher raises their hand and says, I'll pick up the class, kind of thing. But I think that that's something we could definitely look into.
Yeah, it's just as we're sitting here doing this discussion, it just crossed my mind to ask that question.
Yeah, no, I
Thank
think
you,
that
I
makes
yield.
sense.
The last question on staffing is the special ed. Obviously, that's concerning. I recall there was a bunch of positions, and I could be wrong if it was yours, that were like on waivers or something, so they were certified till December, or like the appointment letters and stuff. Is that in addition to these, or are you gonna have more vacancies? Like, if you have 3, how many
Those are-
special ed teachers do you actually have in the building?
Those
for
are
that many
vacancies,
kids?
and I
You have
have
anybody?
quite a few teachers on waivers, and that's not including,
Special ed, just
How many
strictly
special
special ed.
do you have in the building?
how many special ed teachers I have? Oh,
5, 3.
1, 2,
Well, total
the 2
positions.
subset, 2,
Yes, but not all filled.
4.
Right.
And like 2 subset. 4, yeah.
So you
4.
have 4 total and 3 vacant. So that means you only have 1 filled. So is that person filled?
Oh, no, those,
No,
no.
sub-separates
Our sub-separates are,
are filled.
yes. So right now it's the inclusion special ed,
You
so,
have 4 in addition to sub-separate.
yes,
So that would be 6 total. 3 inclusion ones are vacant,
correct.
right? And her sub-separate ones
The
are
sub-separate ones are filled.
filled, but they're
Yes.
wavered.
And when do those waivers up? Is that the one that we
I
saw,
have to
like,
pull that.
So there's been
HR
some,
put these
but
things in there?
yes, but since then, people have gotten whatever they needed to get done to reissue waivers. I would have to get the number from HR, but they've received their waiver since then. So the 90-day appointment piece was whatever they had to do to submit the eligibility for the
So that they
waivers.
get a waiver.
Some of them had to like show that they had taken a course, some of them taken a test, different pieces. So I know I've received some letters
Yeah,
that
just-
basically.
If you can just send us an update, I'm just
Yeah, I
curious,
have to
but
ask, get that
the
from
3 is
HR.
still a problem,
Oh,
of course, and I don't have a solution for you. Is that a contract? Is there anybody out there for,
even the agencies
Agencies,
that
like,
we
nobody has them?
are finding a
Because I
very
think-
hard time finding.
I'd agree with Mr. Corey that at some point, we need to move people from other jobs involuntarily, if need be, to go to these positions. And that's, ultimately, I said that 5 months ago in negotiations, I'm not saying it right on TV.
The other thing I've
At the end
talked
of the
to,
day, we cannot go a year without 3 special ed teachers in inclusion there. You just can't do it.
there's also something at RPA to be said about reconvening some of these teams now when the students are there, just saying, our sub-separate classrooms have more students in them sometimes than our inclusion classrooms. So reconvening the IEP teams, talk to families about just what options are available at RPA and utilizing some of our special ed teachers that are teaching substantially separate to push in with their students so you can have a content teacher and a special education teacher teaching the kids. So we've had those conversations too about reconvening some of those teams to talk about what substantially separate looks like at RPA versus the schools that the students came from.
No, I understand, just the compliance is the issue. We can't have 3 open special ed
Right.
people, so we have to revert to something else.
Right.
Ms. Ferrara.
I was gonna say, obviously, it's struggles hiring teachers everywhere, but what do you think the main issue is getting teachers to RPA? Because when we talk about making, I don't know, I like the toughness in his attitude, however, I'm pretty sure a union's gonna tell us, heck no, that's a huge grievance, you can't take me from 5th grade here and just bop me somewhere else, especially if I don't have the special ed credentials. We've actually had that happen recently, as we all know. So we want to make sure that we're putting there people there who are prepared to do the job and are aware to do the job. And I will say that I think the best way to do it is to pay people more for doing the harder job. Because you're not going to tell me it's harder to be a middle school teacher at RPA is not the same thing as a 2nd grade teacher at a traditional TNZ. It's just not. So we can talk about it all we want, we can pretend it's all equal, but it's just not. And I think it's hard to get teachers to want to work in that environment with, as you said, I forget, excited students.
Enthusiastic.
An excited, enthusiastic student population. I spent a lot of my time working with that type of enthusiastic population, just as important as every other student we have here, but sometimes more challenging. And sometimes you have to pay people more for those more challenging jobs. So, I don't know, I keep saying that, it's tough though, because we don't always we can't decide who gets, they got their unions and stuff like that.
So along those lines, Dr. B, if we're lacking 3 special education teachers, as far as recruiting kids from Durfee or any of the middle schools into RPA, could we hold the special needs kids to be like in the bigger schools and
have been.
And limit the
We already have
population at
been.
RPA?
We already have been.
So that we don't run into this impasse with teachers as it stands now?
We already have been. I think the biggest challenge is that our students' needs need to be met. And I would argue in some of those larger environments where it's a huge challenge for kids to stay regulated, to be able to maintain the expectations.
Yeah.
Durfee is doing all that they can. The increased numbers of students who have been looking at Evolve as an option as well. We have been taking every student on an individual basis and trying to work with families as it relates to what's the best placement for students. It's a challenge, it's been an ongoing challenge. This is not the first year, as the committee knows, of this challenge.
Right.
To just, and the other part is like taking in a special educator away from other students at another school too, that's also not the solution. So I applaud, Assistant Superintendent Openchange. She's been working with Dr. Monet, really trying to look at the schedule, trying to see, again, because class sizes are low, how do we rewrite IEPs so that those services can be distributed over a traditional size. Even a class of 12 right now is not what our substantially separate class sizes look like. And so by looking at the schedule, we're really trying to even put co-teaching opportunities in place, because albeit they may not be special education teachers, if we're able to at least provide academic supports for kids so that they can access the curriculum and provide some of the strategies in place, we will be able to at least provide a better service to our kids who are there. And we do have staffing available at RPA. It's a matter of the schedule aligning right and those folks being able to co-teach.
Really, if that doesn't come across, we need to really ASAP look at creative scheduling, because I do think the numbers in some of these classes are so small, and we need to combine and
you guys, and you're in that process now.
Oh, yes.
Reevaluating the whole thing, right? That's great.
the whole thing. And I feel like now I feel comfortable enough to know all the players, to know what's going on with the virtual path. Because I'll be honest, I got here and virtual pathway was already underway. I would have, had a couple of different ideas for it, which I will share, so.
I yield.
So I know we're talking about potentially moving in staff from other buildings into RPA. Have we considered doing the opposite, looking at any vacancies that we have in other schools and maybe moving some children that might be eligible to other schools to lower that caseload at RPA?
From a special education?
Like have we considered moving children who are in special education to other, like Durfee or?
I think the struggle is a lot of these students came from the schools they would go back to, and I'm not sure that the teams have enough data to support the fact that the kids are ready to go back there. That's always our goal, but even in our middle school, returning back to their middle school programs without some significant growth with the students or with our own staff. I mean, our programs are struggling, really, and there's, unfortunately, the skill set of our special education staff across the district continues to struggle. So even though we have bodies in a lot of places, they are doing the best they can with what they have, but trying to give them all this professional development and all this support. If you didn't go to school for education, or you're coming from a non-educational background, it's hard to do a crash course at the same time you've got students in front of you with high needs. And I'm finding that has been the challenge, not just unique to RPA, across the district. because when you look at the number of certified special education teachers, especially in middle school, and our high schools, it's a low percentage of certified, a lot of waivers, which, again, they're working really hard, they're asking for the supports, it's just finding the people to give them the supports.
Right, so basically it's not that much better in terms of getting certified individuals outside of
Yeah,
it.
it's not unique to RPA,
Sure.
for sure.
And then I agree, thank you for that. And I agree with my colleague in terms of the schools are different, comparing Tansy to RPA. I think it also may come down to a culture issue, and I think just from like the conversation that we've had with the administration, that this is something they really want to tackle going into this year. However, I think that's something that needs to be addressed as well if we're going to fill these vacancies. And again, I don't know if we looked at this in terms of other alternative high schools throughout the region and comparing the pay of their staff compared to RPA. I know we've done it like on a district-wide level, but I think that's something we should take a look at as well. Thank you.
Yeah, enrollment, how many students have come into the school in this 25-26 school year? Roughly, any?
Yes. 5 is what I want to say off the top of my head. I'm trying to think.
So the 7th grade will be all, like, there's seventh graders.
7th grade are all brand new.
So
Yeah.
that would be 7,
And I just got an email today about a middle school, I believe an 8th grader.
just curious if you can
Yeah.
send us something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the reason why I asked that is because as we're going through this whole thing, I know you're struggling, I know our middle schools are struggling big time. And I wrote myself notes like, so what are we doing? This was supposed to be a help to the traditional middle schools, putting kids in a better spot where they could learn in a smaller environment and they could get the services that they needed. And we're like, that faucet shut off in a lot of ways for a variety of reasons. But then the middle schools are still struggling. Like, you know, they got you damned if you do, you damned if you don't. So I'm not suggesting I have the answers, but if you get us.
Well, I think the addition of Mr. Goss, we've already seen it. You know, I was doing both. I was, like, my hair was on fire for the first 3 weeks. And I love middle school. It's all I've ever done. But with him there too, the two of us, I think it's been, the expectations are up here and we're not lowering them. And I think the students, I'm seeing and I'm feeling the difference, and people are feeling the difference. It's
Well, because
quiet.
I think in order for your school to exist, it needs to take kids.
Yes.
Because the school doesn't exist just because. School needs to exist to help the burden of other kids that are in the wrong placement or need the extra support. So I'm not happy with the numbers going the numbers should be going this way, not that way.
Agreed.
And when I look at the little middle school ones, and I'm going to belabor that point, you acknowledge it's very low, high staff. If we ever put the cost behind this, you know, wow. So I digress, but
I feel a whole lot more comfortable now with kids coming in, knowing that we have systems in place and I know enough of what's going on and what we can offer and what we can show and showcase. I finally feel confident enough to have people come in and go, this is what we can give you.
Okay.
So.
Can we move right to the virtual pathway?
Yes. So do you want to just right to where it says? Okay. So the virtual pathway, and I'm going to be honest, it's been a little murky, and I think every week we're tightening it up. We now have our standing virtual pathway Monday morning meeting. That is gospel to me, that everybody has a lot of questions and stuff, and just again figuring out everybody's role and how we're tracking these kids, because I keep saying as the principal, it makes me nervous that I don't know what these kids are doing or which is why I said we need Ms. Crumley to be the liaison between what's happening with guidance, the virtual kids, the families, and me. We have a ways to go, we do. And we're now just starting to bring those kids in and identifying which ones are not making it out in the virtual world and bringing them back into school so that we can have eyes on them. There's kids that are choosing it, and I want to make sure that if they're doing it for the right reasons, if they're going virtual. Because I keep saying, everybody's heard it, I think it takes more discipline for a student to go virtual than it does for them to be in person. And I need to make sure that students understand that if they're opting to go virtual. So, I don't know if you have any questions or if you want me to go through this.
I know, let's ask for a couple. Mr.
Okay.
Clark?
I do. Could I ask Lori to maybe give some testimony to what you're seeing as far as the virtual pathway program?
Yeah, well, when it first started, we needed to have students who had a need for it, right? So, like some of our kids are working and we're finding now, like engaging them might be harder in terms of getting them face to face. But we still need to make sure they're doing their work. So I know tomorrow we have like several students who are coming in because they weren't doing or making the progress they were supposed to make, or they've been hard to reach. They're coming in so we can meet with them and discuss, is this really the right program for you?
As far as off-campus work is concerned, are there good attendance numbers for them showing up to their jobs? Are they showing up to their jobs and working their hours?
Well, my assumption is, we have a few kids that are full-time, we don't employ them, and we're not necessarily in touch with their employers.
Would Dr. Monette, would the community facilitator maybe be able to, enhance that role a little bit?
Correct.
To make a connection between if they're showing up to their work, and if they're in the virtual pathway, then they have a responsibility on both ends to show up.
And I think that once we get to that, that's what have identified for our flex students, because those have been, for me personally, the most heartbreaking ones. The boys, I say the boys, sorry. The students that are coming in and are really looking, and they're this close to getting their high school diploma, but they work full-time and they don't want to give that up. And it's like, the first student we met, it was heartbreaking because he's there with his mom, and his mom's like, I just want him to graduate. And I'm like, what do we do? What do we do? How do we get him to the finish line? So that's where we've defined what the flex is. We'll get to that. But those are our students where school right now is not the priority. He's working, and he's working construction, and I'm sure he's doing a great job. But what can we offer him to get him that extra support to get him the diploma? So,
Are the kids in the virtual pathway, are they responsible to show up to school at any point on campus? Do they have to be on campus at any point throughout their entire schedule?
no, and if I had to back up 2 months ago with this, that's one of those things there needs to be a touch point where I need to see them.
Yeah, so the touch point, and what's going on through my mind, Lori, if we could set up a touch point system, then maybe it could be like a mentoring group, and the kids come in and talk about, what they're doing and just to incentivize them toward more responsibility. That's where my mind is.
There is a
going
daily
with that.
touch point, there is a daily.
there is a daily, but not, it's virtual,
They
it's not
don't
in
physically
person.
come in
Yeah.
person,
Yeah.
correct.
But if it could be a physical touch point.
Right, I think that's where like a hybrid program would come into play for those students, but I think it's really important to recognize that kids are choosing a virtual pathway for a range of reasons, being unsuccessful physically in the building.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that is really where this individualized connection through the guidance counselor, working with students individually to figure out what they need. As part of the virtual pathway agreement, it is the virtual pathway specialist's role to be able to create essentially a lab space in the building, because we have plenty of space in that building. So that as students land in the bucket of they haven't made consistent progress, that they're held accountable to come in person for the following week to catch up on their academics in person. That had not yet gotten put in place with the virtual pathway specialist. We're now at the point
Yes.
of being able to put that in place, as evidenced by the kids are coming in. We've identified the kids who did not make progress independently, gave them a few of the warnings and outreach. For some of those, a couple of those kids may or may not have responded back. Now we need to get in touch with their families because of the progress not being made. So it's putting the system in place to be able to figure those pieces out, and to have a person in the building who can receive those students coming into the building and move off to a lab space to be able to get that one-on-one support.
Yeah,
Right.
and the one-on-one support may include some counseling.
Correct.
Yes,
All parts
absolutely.
of the resources that RPA has to offer,
Great, okay, I yield.
as well as lunch, as well as breakfast,
So
right?
this is,
All those pieces.
you guys are exploring all of these alternatives, is that correct? You're exploring.
100%, and really to figure out between what worked last year, does it continue to work this year? As we've added in 9th grade this year, what the 9th graders need that we didn't have last year because it was only 10 to 12, so that a formal vision of a virtual school in Fall River can come as a result of this towards the end of the year. That's really a broader vision of ours as we continue to see the greater Commonwealth Tech School and the enrollment and the interest of families wanting to enroll in that program, we feel we can do it better locally. We feel we can offer a hybrid model locally that right now TECA can't, and they've got a waiting list. So we recognize that there's a request from the community because we've seen the increased enrollment in TECA and the waiting list. The committee knows the 2% cap that, you know, we had to take a vote on a year ago. All of that still exists. So the data has shown, even when we started this search 2 years ago to explore the virtual school pathway, there was an interest even among homeschooling students as well as students that were in the virtual pathway themselves. So the virtual school themselves, I should say. So we know there's a request and there's a need here in the city based on what we're seeing as enrollment trends. And so taking all of the elements of the program that are working, even to be honest, looking at some of the pieces of the home tutoring program that are really finding success, and how do we write a virtual school application that could kind of run alongside as a full virtual school and go through that whole process.
I yield.
The assessments, I think that was an issue at the beginning about authenticity of assessments. I believe in the past we used to have kids come in to take that assessment so that they knew they did their hours, but also they know the material. I think that's something to look at how that works.
So that's where the virtual pathway specialist is, he's the one that's monitoring the assessments and he's brilliant in picking up, like, he has them where they have to do it and the camera has to be on them. And
Class relay?
Yes.
The tool
That's what I'm
class
saying,
relay?
so there's
Yeah,
something that we
yes.
can
To
say, yes, you
monitor,
know,
yes.
we're not just letting the kid do it.
And he's also picking up on, because there's apps out there where the kids can cheat, so he's very on top of that too. So I actually had met him during summer school, and he had identified a few kids who were using that app, so that's been
This
shut
was a
down.
teacher?
He was a teacher, yes.
Was like a teacher before?
Yes.
Not a special ed teacher, right?
No.
He
You
was
moved a special
doing,
ed teacher out
he
of-
was doing
yeah,
special ed, but was wavered,
You know,
so,
so-
yeah.
If we can just move along, because I know
Okay.
that just other people are struggling, so if we can just go over the next steps, skip a couple of pages.
Okay, so obviously, again, and I know I keep saying tighten it up, but now I feel that, and Dr. B and I love that she lets me pick her brain, and I love her passion for this, because I do think this is the wave of the future to catch a lot of kids in many different districts. The district I was coming from, even in Western Mass, Tech was one of those that we competed with. I think it was the Deerfield or West something, one of those other ones too. But we have some work to do, because as much as I can say we're hiring our expectations within the building, that expectation needs to be outside in the virtual pathway too. That students need to know. I've said it before, it's a privilege to be allowed to go virtual pathway in Fall River. So that's where I feel like we need to really define what it looks like for those learners, and to make sure that they know we're watching them. Like, you're still a student in Fall River. So, and I think we're at the point too that we need to be better about celebrating the students that are succeeding and are doing what they need to do. And we have identified those students. We're at the midway point, which is why we're now pulling kids back in, because the midterm grades are not where they need to be, and we know what they are doing and what they're not doing. And then just looking at, I guess, building stronger connections, and, you know, next year already in my head going, we need to have a huge, you know, open house for those families, and a huge orientation that it wasn't what I would, now looking back, we were trying to get them up and moving and get them online. And I wish I had more time to hit the brakes and go, no, we need to do a whole orientation on this. And we didn't, so. We're getting there. I feel way better sitting here than I did even 2 weeks ago, because I feel like we've had a lot of good conversations at our virtual pathway meeting, and everybody knows that this needs to succeed, so.
We start at the end with the SEL workforce development, career exploration.
So these are just some of the things that we are offering to all of our students, not just the virtual pathway, is balanced learning is now coming in. They've already started their groups. I love it. I think this is huge. We've got kids, and they did it the right way. They met with kids as a group, and then they saw the interest and met with kids individually, and now we've created those groups based on the interest level. I've heard no kid complain about it. They're doing a lot of really great things. So that is something I think, honestly, every school in America should have. So I don't know who brought that on board, but is that for you? Thank you very much. College Fair, we're getting our kids excited about that. CTE After Dark, UMass Dartmouth field trip. and then the financial aid workshops. So as much as we can bring in, and I love that the students are asking about all this stuff, you know, are we eligible, can we go to this? You know, we had one of the guidance counselors say today, I had a student say, he's never really left Fall River, what can we do? Like, this is the stuff that's going through my head, you know, so that's where I keep talking to Dr. B about the Shannon grant money and all these opportunities that I think we can do within our building for these students. You know, I have a dream of taking these kids on big field trips and showing them what exists outside of Fall River. I could go on and on about that.
Culinary?
So culinary, again, if we could get these programs in, these kids race down to culinary. You and I had this, they love it. If we could build that within, you know, and I don't know if the building's big enough, but, you know, she's talking about sewing, and I just think of, like, I think of Mashpee has all these things that we're saving these kids, and I'll just talk about it, that you want to see some special things, some things going on, getting kids in the building. Just whatever we could do, you know, the CTE for RPA kids would be amazing. I
think you just, we've been talking about this for years, and sometimes there's barriers that are nobody's fault in some ways, because we've been talking about it for a while. But the culinary, like, I'm just looking at enrollment, 18 students total. Like, how is that possible? And we have a full-time teacher.
Because not everybody likes culinary, but yeah, I mean, that's the
I'm just saying, so
yes.
what do you do all day? Like, what do you do to fill up the day? And in culinary, you need to be present in order to cook the food to be able, you know, like,
Right.
it's not like a class like phys ed where you can come and go. This is a program that you need to, how is the schedule that this has so limited kids in it? For something that, to use your own words, the kids love.
Right,
Like,
they do, they love it.
I mean, is it a schedule thing? Is it the kids are in academics too often, or what? Like,
And when we talk
because of
about
the need?
creative scheduling, I would love to look with those numbers to see what we can combine and collapse to make sure it fits. And she's got a whole room of sewing machines. I mean, that's where I would see, and she's willing to do it. I don't know if you know her, she's amazing.
Yeah, I don't want to go on a tangent on it. My thought was, this has been a long time coming. We spent years trying to fix the place. Then it was like, we got to build it. Then it's not handicap accessible. Like, I have a whole slew of questions and concerns about how that's going. At the end of the day, we got a program that kids like. We only got 18 kids in it. Something needs to, in my opinion, change.
26 actually, because we have 8.
Oh, what you say, yeah, there's 20, so it's 18 plus 8. So, yeah, thank you.
Same concerns, but
Yeah.
yes. Mr. Corey.
So I had a chance to visit the school recently, and I was thoroughly impressed at what I saw going on with the culinary program. I wanted to thank Mr. Pacheco for, you know, getting all the stuff up and running for us. And I want to thank the school for getting the program up and running. I met the teacher that's running culinary. I was thoroughly impressed with her energy, her enthusiasm to work with those children. And those children they were going to they were on task. They were cutting the vegetables and the stuff according to the way the teacher wanted everything to be done. So she's disseminating her instructions accordingly, and I see it as a step-by-step process. We're not gonna be like Durfee Culinary right off of the bat, or Diamond Culinary, but we're gonna start this program really slowly and build upon it. But I was impressed with the enthusiasm in the program. My concern is she may be retiring, so we might need to recruit somebody to replace her as a really enthusiastic culinary teacher moving forward. That's my biggest concern with that. I hope that we can find a way to retain her in some way, shape, or form. I yield.
Mr. Corey, do you have anything?
No, thank
Mr. Dice.
Just a very quick question. My colleague brought up the point of we're not going to be the same as Durfee right away. At Durfee's culinary program, what's like the end goal? Like, do they get the certifications? Like, what are they getting there that maybe isn't happening right now at RPA?
So, I mean, they have an opportunity certainly to do many more hours over the course of like sophomore, junior, and senior year. So the students who are here, it looks like culinary 1 meets for 1 period, culinary 2 meets for 2 periods. So the teacher is teaching 5 periods a day with smaller groups of
And
students.
the
So it
8th
is a
grade
relatively
is new. And I brought that on as, because I feel like it should be an exploratory for those students that, so she has 8 students now,
Sure.
and then it'll
The-
switch and she'll have, you know, different students, because it is an
We
exploratory.
say many more hours at RPA?
No, many
At
more
Durfee.
hours as a Durfee student in the culinary program. They're doing many more, like, there's much more seat time there.
Sure.
In terms of what they're doing, so there is an opportunity for them to earn other, different certifications, that aren't in the time provided at RPA.
Right, and I guess that's my concern, because I believe by law, every different school should have like adequate, like, the same programs, so I just don't wanna run into a future situation where we don't have the same services or programs that Durfee has or whatnot, or if we're mixing kids in, if they can go to Durfee for their culinary program.
We do have students who are participating in After Dark, so they have a staggered schedule so that they can do classes at RPA and then culinary later in the afternoon.
Right,
And we do have, or cosmetology.
No, I understand, but do you understand what I'm trying to articulate with my concern?
Yeah, that there are programs available at Durfee High School that are not available at RPA.
Right, and I just wanna make sure legally we're sound. I'll just leave it at that, thank you.
So I think the other piece is that Durfee has the restaurant, which we were told was gonna happen down there, but I guess that's not handicap accessible, so now that's out, but we've been trying to do this for 3 years. We didn't know, or I don't know, it was disheartening to figure out now, at this point, by the way, we can't open, but we make handicap accessible bathrooms, we do this, but we're not gonna open it. The point of that was to make a restaurant, or somewhere where they could have the, thing, put the food in there, the kids could make it, people could come from outside, and that is not, I guess, happening, but I only heard that secondhand, so I guess maybe a one-pager on
Sure.
where we're at with that, because that's a big investment. If you have to make an elevator or something, fine, but then maybe that's what we gotta do in the budget. We spend the money on a lot worse stuff.
They've started construction on that. The rooms, yeah.
We're building an elevator,
No,
so,
well, have you been in that? I'm sure you have.
no, I'm saying like, for real.
There is a
So-
room, and they're, they've had flooring
building
put in, and
elevators?
so.
Mr. Chico, you understand what I'm saying? We're not,
So
she's saying
the
that they
handicap
started.
accessibility is not the reason why we're not. We have a handicap bathroom in that room that's been completed. We've got furniture in that room that's been completed. The conversation changes, it may be used for a classroom instead of a serving room. I believe that the terminology of, learning how to crawl before you walk is what needs to happen. Because I'm not quite sure that's the next logical step there. And I'm saying that from a person who taught vocational education for 16 years. So it is a step.
I'm only going on what we've talked about.
Right, so it's ready.
That was gonna open as outside people to come in to buy.
And it could.
And what is the barrier to that, is I guess what I'm asking for the one picture.
So if for instance, if the barrier is a handicap accessible interest, then obviously that school has one. The idea would be to have a kiosk, as we've talked about, and set a kiosk up. The hours would be limited to whatever time we could set a kiosk up, and people could come from the outside, walk in the door, and have a kiosk set up with a variety of stuff that the students made, and the students could serve.
And not in the room that was.
But not
But not in that.
adjacent to the kitchen.
That's my only point, was that I went visit, we're gonna move this in, we're gonna have people coming in from the courthouse, we're gonna have this and that, and now it's not, but.
But there are also
I
employees, Ms. Aguirre, that could utilize the room that's there. The people who work on that floor, most of them are adults, on the floor where the restaurant is, so it could be used as a
Yeah,
restaurant.
I guess it's just a one pager.
Sure.
Request, I think it's a good program, just, everything takes money. There's no way to duplicate services between, an alternative school and Durfee High School, it's just to Mr. Bass's
I was
point.
really happy with what I saw because it was moving in the right
Yeah,
direction.
it's not necessarily, I just think we have to figure it out, what are we gonna do ultimately with it. Anything else on the RPA presentation, any other questions? Thank you for
No,
your
thank you. Come in and
candidness
visit. We love people coming in. It was
I
a,
will.
it was a, yes, it was a good visit. I can't remember your name, but it was a good visit.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, on to the next
I
item.
applaud your enthusiasm
Thank
and
you.
your vision.
This early childhood update. I put this on for discussion. What I did see in the documents wasn't necessarily what I was asking for a plan. So what I did see was just a regurgitation of the same thing we do every year. You know, X amount of kids, we get this and that. At the end of the day, my concern was, what is the plan for early childhood?
For, do you mean
25,
space?
26, anything. Where are we at, where are we heading? Not a regurgitation of the same numbers that we always get, that we have 33 classrooms, we have X amount, we know that information. So
Okay.
the purpose of putting this on was, it's October 15th, whatever the date is, maybe I'm not, but
14.
14th,
My
sorry.
daughter's birthday.
Yeah, so, my thing is, what is the plan for early childhood moving forward?
I,
Plan, like, next year, are we projected to have 33 classrooms, or are we gonna have 38 classrooms? Are those classrooms gonna be
We haven't
located at
discussed
Bishop Connolly?
any,
Are they gonna be located in a different place? Are we repairing other places? Are we getting leases with somebody? Are we asking for rent for somebody? Like, that's.
if I understood what the question was, I would have said today's not the day for that agenda item. Because I don't have information to share with you across all of those topics. So it appeared from the, I want an early childhood update, that you wanted
And
the
planning.
information.
Plan. That's
Okay.
the plan, that's what we need, is a plan. We need a plan for where we're at,
Mm-hmm.
and where we're gonna go, and how we're gonna get there. That's the essence of it, so.
Okay,
We're gonna postpone this for 30 days until the next meeting.
that's perfect.
And at that point, but that's the theory, is what are we doing, where are we going?
Okay.
What are we doing, update on the Pace Center, repairs, money, you know, and the reason why I'm saying that and why I'm being like firm with it is because we've been told many things, and some of these are not your fault. Oh, this was gonna be done on that time, this was gonna be done on that time, and shame on me for not having those meetings every 30 days to hold people accountable to it, so in 30 days, we'll postpone this until then.
Can I ask one question for the administration to
Sure.
plan for? Not looking for the answer right now. In terms of the Pace Center, and I'm not sure if we're going to be placing more pre-K or more students in there next year. I've received some concerns about the air quality inside and outside. And I can go more into detail, I'll send an email with it, but I just
Sure,
wanted
you
to
could
put on your
actually
radar.
ask those people to reach out to us. I haven't heard any concerns around air quality until now.
I am,
Okay.
thank you,
All right, so duly noted, forward those requests directly to the superintendent, please.
I will.
Next up, 3.04, and thank you, Ms. Farias, for coming, sorry to,
Thank you.
your information was valid, but it wasn't necessarily what we were looking for, so we'll be back in 30 days. 3.04, special education strategies.
So, Special Education, Sped Strategy is an organization that is hired, that DESE hires to support districts based on their LEA determination. So every year, DESE gives us a report. In the backup documents, you have the report, but basically, DESE decides if schools are in one of four areas: meets requirements, needs assistance, needs intervention, or needs substantial intervention. They use a whole rubric, and then they send us the kind of printout of where we scored. So I know that this is the sheet that is in your packet. They look at us in three specific areas: performance, which really has to do with academic achievement across many areas; compliance, which is with all regulations; and then other considerations, which are just like other factors that don't really fit into one of those other categories. And out of a total of 41 possible points, Fall River had 19. That puts us in the 46th percentile, and based on their rubric, we are in the needs intervention category. Needs intervention goes from 0 percentage points to 65 percentage points. We earned almost all of our points in the compliance category, which is a good thing, again, based on previous program reviews. We've had issues with compliance, so we earned 14 out of 16 points in that category. That was huge for me. The piece that we can continue to struggle with, and we know, is academic achievement. And that's mostly of the performance. So we only earned 2 out of 20 points. As a result of this, with SPED strategies, we had to do a root cause analysis. And I tried to upload, it's a multi-sheet Excel document that we have to complete and then upload to DESE. When we peel back, they told us that basically the biggest areas for Fall River were the number of students with disabilities who graduate with a high school diploma and the number of students with disabilities who drop out. Now we know that those concerns don't start in high school. So we have to start peeling the onion back. And when we peel the onion back, this is not something that is going to be new to this committee because I've shared this before. We go all the way down. One of the other things they look at is educational placements. The number of kids in substantially separate classrooms without certified teachers. So during this big process of a whole year of root cause analysis, action planning, we landed with, we are going to focus on the area in our elementary school, our younger grades, on getting students in the general education classroom with their typical peers, getting the special education supports, and having a certified general education teacher in front of them as well. We had to come out with a whole plan. I shared with you the letter where DESE gives us feedback on our plan and approval for our action plan. So all the support we've gotten from the committee when it comes to working with Deb Harris and her group, doing an audit of our related services, all of that ties in to our multi-year action plan. And over the course of the multi-year action plan, our goal remains the same. We are going to improve outcomes for students with disabilities as far as graduation by focusing on the experiences they are getting in our elementary and middle schools. And then over time, I mean, this goes multi-years, it goes to 2030, right? We are going to see the rate of graduation increase from, I think we were at, I'd have to pull it up. We set a long-term goal. So, sorry, our dropout rate will decrease from 9.6% to 3.4%. That will take us out of the needs intervention category. And our 5-year graduation cohort will increase from 62% to 80%. And again, that takes us out of the needs intervention category. Is that where we want to be? No, but it would certainly be a lot better than where we are right now. And I need to do something that I feel like is a reasonable target for us to achieve, knowing all the factors that come along with students in graduation and diplomas. So part of our immediate goals is that we will see 70% of all our teachers participating in this Trailblazer Academy with Deb Harris, implementing those strategies with special education teachers and students with disabilities in the general education setting. It takes the entire district to support that, right? It's not just a special education piece, it is a general education piece, building principals, coaches, department heads, all need to be in classrooms looking for these indicators. And then, along with that, 80% of students will be spending at least 40% of their day in those general education classrooms. Again, reducing full substantially separate and increasing partial inclusion. We had to identify the barriers to our success. And again, in Fall River, we need to acknowledge a culture and a mindset where students that had significant disabilities or behaviors were better educated. And again, it came from a good place, outside of the general ed setting. But we don't have teachers in those classrooms, in many of them. So we need to rethink that. And the data doesn't support it. We said it all along. The data for students in substantially separate is not comparable to data for students with disabilities in general education. That's been a barrier, is just mindset, changing people's belief that they can educate students with disabilities in general education. Our IEP development has been weak, very vague, and low expectations. We're doing a whole professional development around unpacking standards with the Office of Instruction so that special education teachers know what the target is for the kids. We're not lowering the expectation, grade level standards. Now you have to get the kids there. Again, another barrier, class size, nothing we haven't talked about before, and the unlicensed staff. The last barrier we identified was tier 1. Again, it all starts in that general education classroom before any student. They're all students in front of us, meeting the needs, because we know that achievement across the board, not just for students with disabilities, but all of our students, remain a concern here. DESE approved our action plan. We are going into year 2 of the action plan, and we have our first meeting with them is next week. I know that was a brief summary, but that's all the work and why we.
Thank you, Mr. Corey.
So, I really, you're really unpacking a lot of issues that I think have been undermining special ed in this district for so many years. I can't even tell you how many years. I don't know. Maybe Dr. B and Dr. Curley can understand where I'm coming from. I know that when I began my career as an adjustment counselor, I know that special ed was, there was a lot of politics involved in the appointment of certain directors in the past. I've never heard any director uncover what you're uncovering. And I think that one of the main pathways to success in trying to achieve the goals that you just spoke about is consistency in the central office. And I'm really, really, really hoping that you don't go anywhere for a good number of years, because what you need to unpack here is so severe. It's so deep. And I'm in line with you. I think these goals are all accessible, but it's going to take a whole team to make it work. But when we lose, I thought that when we hired Michael Loesch, he came from Boston on a great recommendation, and I thought maybe we were heading in a better direction for our special needs. But I didn't see any deep growth happen, but I'm witnessing much deeper growth with you in this position. And I'm not trying to yes you to death. I'm just appreciating the fact that you're uncovering so much, and your eyes are on the prize, and that's what's impressing me the most. So we need consistency, because if you leave the district and we get another special ed assistant superintendent, then it's going to be, we're going to have to start from ground zero again, because I think our needs are that deep. So that's where I'm coming from. I see consistency in the central office according to these needs, I think is really important. And that's what I wanted to say. I yield.
Ms. Perry, have anything?
No, thank you.
Mr. Corey,
Thank you. I agree with a lot of what my colleagues said, and I can appreciate how you took the self-accountability, and there's a plan, an action plan going forward. So that makes me feel a lot more, a lot less stress going into next year. 2 questions. One, and I think this is okay to say, do you feel supported at all levels? That you can, like, is there anything that you would need from the committee or?
No, yes, I do feel supported. I honestly, I tell my team all the time. I was just meeting with them on the Walker Report earlier. Sure. And I said, I am grateful for the support of this committee. I am grateful whatever I bring to my team at central office. What worries me is everybody needs the investment, that this is the priority, and it's not just my department. And in a district this large, and it's not like anybody isn't saying, everybody yeses me, yes Lori, yes Lori. but everybody in every school has to make this the priority to do the work. Because I can give you the tools, I can give you the analysis, the data, but everybody has to own it. And it's going to be hard work. Our students have high needs, and we have to learn about self-regulation, we have to learn about communication. Those are the barriers for some of our little guys that we have to say, it's okay, I'm gonna embrace this and do something different, right? So yes, I feel supported. I need every layer of Fall River to be committed to this work.
It's holistic.
It is. And again, spreading across a large district continues to be my struggle, right? I wanna be everywhere all the time, and it's hard to keep the work moving in the right direction when you can't be there, and you rely on a district to do the work.
And thank you for that, and I agree with you. My last question is on the PRS complaints.
Yep.
Could you tell me how that, again, you might apologize if you said it, how does that factor into?
So that goes under our compliance. So basically, if you look, so under one of our, on the compliance rubric, it will say the number of findings of non-compliance. And so out of all the PRS complaints that we had, how many of them did they give you the opportunity to fix the problem, right?
Sure.
So we submit a local report. Sometimes our local report says there isn't any findings of non-compliance. Those don't get reported. These are, yes, we found non-compliance, and then what are we doing to fix it? Honestly, a lot of our non-compliance is related to discipline and not giving the right letters at the right time, or bullying investigations, those types of pieces. I haven't got a non-compliance where it's like you didn't implement an IEP within the right timeline. So it's more about kind of the systems that we have in place and making sure those systems are being followed so this doesn't happen.
Can we, even if you have to take the names out, can the committee get a copy of those 3 PRS reports?
Of the 3 that were findings?
Sure.
If I can redact them, I don't see why not. I think it's actually PRS's public thing.
Okay, thank you.
Did you say that you were meeting with Desi again soon?
Yes,
When
next
is
week.
it?
Next week, the 23rd or the 24th, something like that. So we're meeting with Special Ed Strategies.
Okay.
Right. Who is the, who Jesse's using, yes. So they'll take, the focus of this year is taking all the work we did last year, our action plan, we have to give them an update of where we are. And then based on any new information that we have as a district, is there anything in our action plan we need to change?
Right.
So some of it is like, there was funding in there. If that funding didn't get approved, we need to.
So the reason I'm asking is because this seemed just kind of like a synopsis, like I read through everything you had just said. But I'm assuming next week you may have some new information of different things, so you're gonna circle back and share, or maybe it'll be at the 30-day meeting or whatever?
Yeah, I don't think there will be much
There won't be anything to
information
share? Okay.
new. I gotta figure out how to take all the sheets of the template. I think that would be helpful for you guys to see how it's mapped out
Yeah.
over the year.
Yeah, tried to download it and,
Yeah, it's,
maneuver it and stuff, and it was hard to print.
So I think we can definitely get
Alright.
that. We are gonna have a meeting in 30 days to talk about the other piece. So
Sure.
I would like to make a recommendation that the
Email.
Walker report, which is the next item, gets put on that agenda.
okay.
Mr. Corey has one question before we end.
So, you talked about self-regulation in that, so 2 questions. Will DESI be by our side through any transitions that we make to our programming? Will they support us?
That's a tough one, right? Because
Ask if they'll
DESI
support anybody.
still has the
Seriously.
requirement. So one of the things that's a huge concern for me, now they're coming down with new regulations of timeout spaces. And even our calming spaces, right? This is all new
Are
regulation.
they over-regulating? Yes.
I don't know that I'd say over-regulating. I think it's good, but the implications of the day-to-day work, there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect between DESI and what's happening in schools. And I just had Jamie Camacho, the Commissioner of Special Education, at my last urban meeting, and it just feels like there's a disconnect. I get it. I get what the regulations should be, but we need the supports to do the work with our high needs kids.
I'll maintain that so many of them live in a bubble. But my next question is to Dr. Bronhard. So as far as her plea for self-regulation, is in the holistic approach. Are we getting our SEL liaisons and our adjustment counselors all on the same page as far as that motivationally through professional development and the likes?
Yeah, I think it's way beyond motivationally. We are seeing in our data, particularly through our satchel data from end of year last year, beginning of the year this year, we are making headway as it relates to creating safe spaces for kids and supporting kids with the skill development and the sub-skill development. We still serve a very challenging population of students.
Big time.
And the needs across our community are not changing. If anything, they're increasing. And so constantly ensuring that our staff have the tools and the resources and the time to be able to meet the needs of our kids is a top priority.
So departmentally, we've hired lots of SEL liaisons and adjustment counselors, and there's been some movement even within those ranks, but they're all on the same page departmentally as far as what the mission is. That's all I need to know.
The only thing I would like to say on that is, right, to say we have a tremendous amount of issues. The issues are getting greater, not easier, more complex than more simple to deal with. And our class size is still in crisis across the whole district. So you take a lot of those things, we have a lot of challenges. You can have all those things in place, and then we got 28 students in a class. The kids are in second grade, they're running roughshod over it. One or two kids that are just totally out of control. The teacher can't teach the other 26 kids. This is happening all over this district. And it, not only here, all the urbans are probably going through the same thing. So we can keep saying, oh, we're trying our best, you're trying your best, but ultimately the challenges are tremendous, great. Same thing with special ed. I think the committee should take some credit for the resources that we've put in, because there hasn't been the level of resources that we've put in have allowed you to do some of the things that you could do. I do think you're doing a nice job, but without the right people, like we can't just have no administrators in the school system and run all these things. That's crazy, but everybody wants to say it because it's a popular phrase to say, all the money in administrators. I'll stand here today again and say we need more administrators than less to do some of the pieces that we need to. We just need to hold those accountable if they're not doing right. But ultimately, like I fought for the assistant, what I call the assistant sped director. That's been monumental for compliance, all these other things. So here's the proof in the pudding. That it was a controversial vote. People were like, oh, why are you doing that? We need actually more. When you look at the org charts, we need more people to do some of those things and hold them accountable for good quality work and that. But I just think the challenges are tremendous, and I do appreciate everybody's candor at the meeting. I would move the Walker report to the next meeting on 30 days. You're unpacking it now anyway, so we read it. I would ask that it goes to the full committee, but just a view.
Sure.
But an agenda item isn't needed at the full committee, in my opinion, because we're going to meet again in 30 days to go over it. I want to reiterate the need for the early childhood plan for 2025-26. We'll schedule a meeting with the secretary as soon as we can. And any new business?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Mr. Dice.
I'd just like to find out earlier in citizens input why one was redacted.
I will, as the chairman, get that information and I'll forward you an email.
Okay.
Because I don't know that information at present. Motion to adjourn, made by Mr. Corey, seconded by Ms. Ferrer. All in favor?
Aye.
All supported. Thank you so much. Have a great night.